everybody, and welcome to this edition of Stream On. I'm Jim Williams, your host, and the topic today is comedy. That's right, all things funny. And, we are very fortunate. We have a star-studded cast of people who can talk comedy. I'm going to start with Living the Dream. Now, Living the Dream is a television show that was a big hit on Sky TV in the UK. It's now streaming on Britbox here. And it is a very interesting fish out of water type situation. The premise of the show is the Pemberton family, a couple with two children who decide on a radical change in life. They're leaving their home in Yorkshire, England, moving to Central Florida, where they're going to manage a trailer park. I know, what could go wrong, right? So we're going to talk very shortly to the cast of Living the Dream. Also, a little bit later in the show, we're going to talk to Shane Allen. Shane is the main man behind comedy at the BBC. So we're going to check in with Shane. He's always a great guest, good friend of the podcast, and he will be joining us a little bit later. But first up, Living the Dream, three of the main cast members joining us today: Kim Fields, Philip Glenister, and Kevin Nash. Again, from the outrageous and funny Living the Dream. Kim, tell you what, let's start with you. Let's talk about the premise of the show. And also, you guys seem to have a lot of fun doing Living the Dream.
So I can't really speak to how they came about developing, the show. I think Philip will touch upon that.
Sure.
But we have an enormous amount of fun. Not only is the show beautifully shot production value-wise, but they capture the cast chemistry. And I certainly appreciate that and the interaction and the creativity, within the writing and the directing. And I'm glad that it's so relatable. We think so, but everything is always a crapshoot.
That's true.
But I think certainly the idea of a fish out of water type of concept is always very popular if it's done correctly. But also that sense of here's how we're the same, here's how we're different.
Right. Kevin and Philip, from you guys' standpoint, coming to the United States, coming to the U.S. and specifically to Florida, what did you find most entertaining from that standpoint and most challenging?
Well, funny enough, we actually we didn't actually shoot in Florida. We shot in and around Savannah.
Oh, okay.
Up the coast.
Up the street, up the street there.
Yeah. But I suppose just sort of going back to what Kim was saying, I think the premise of how the show came about was that we wanted to show a British couple who are kind of in their middle years.
Sure.
But, actually who still really love each other. Because you have so many sort of shows on TV now where you have couples in their, sort of 50s and suddenly the kids are grown up and then they suddenly say to each other, we hate you, I hate you, I've never loved you and all that sort of thing. And we thought, let's put a positive spin. Let's show a couple that still have got, some life in them and want to go on and have an adventure. And we together, as a family and just go for the next stage of their life. And so Mick Ford, who created the show, and Luke Alkin, our executive producer, thought, well, what better way to go than to send them to Florida and open up an RV trailer park and start a business up. Knowing that there's something like 1.7 million Brits go to Florida every year on holiday. Right. There's something like over 700,000 actually have relocated there. So we just thought, and being a sunshine state and the title Living the Dream, so we wanted to show the sort of the spin on a positivity behind it, and then that wonderful thing of the fact that the Brits and the Americans, we speak the same language, but we don't necessarily come off the same page, So my experience of going over there, I'd sort of been a bit used to it because I'd shot a series Outcast in South Carolina.
Right.
I did seasons for that, so I kind of experienced the sort of the southern states a little bit. So. And I'm always amazed at how positive the Americans are. Do you know what I mean? And how friendly and polite they are. I don't know why. Maybe it's just something that seems to be inbuilt. in Americans, whereas we're a bit more, reserved, I think, back home. So it's always fun to come out here and work. And as I said, we had a fantastic cast and crew. We all bonded really well. And it was a fun show, and it was a fun show to make. And it's just always meant to be an hour of kind of escapism, for people. And especially in this day and age when, we have, in both our countries, we have some interesting things going on.
Yes, that's true. That's a good way of putting it.
You know what I'm saying?
So actually, you could have been part of the diplomatic corps, actually. Yeah.
Say again?
I said you could have been part of the diplomatic corps.
Well, you never know, watch the space. But, so yeah, it was just, with some very strange sort of times when a lot of people are, there seems to be so much sort of stuff going on that is based on scaring people and fear of the unknown. So we're just doing our job of just entertaining people for an hour to get away from the real world for a little bit and come join the fun in the sun, I'd say.
Yes. The other part of it too, is that it's a family show. I mean, there aren't that many of those around where you can sit down and you can have fun, and it's not something that that the entire family can sit down and have fun to relate to.
Yeah, I mean, that's the great thing. It is a family show. You can sit down together as a family and watch this show without being kind of offended, And you're right, it's quite rare, and especially again in this day and age when so many families don't sit down to watch TV or even have dinner. Everybody's on a tablet or they're on a phone or something, and so it's nice to sort of try and create something that you can bring the family unit back together just for a little bit, and just I certainly tried it with my family. Sometimes they have to be whipped into shape. I said, you're watch your father on television now.
Right. Pay attention to him.
For schooling. Little shit. Anyway.
Yes. Oh man.
And then they suddenly realise their father's right all along.
Right. There you go. Speaking of it, the family, the kids are hilarious.
Yeah, the kids are great.
They're great actors.
They're great, Rosie and Brannock. And in a funny sort of way, from my point of view, playing their father, they have become, I feel like the Brady Bunch. They've become kind of, we've become very close. When we're on set and things, and Rosie's now, a good friend. She hangs out with my daughter. And Brannock, when we shot the second season, they came over and they were all going out together and just chilling. And funnily enough, my daughter has just written a short film, which Rosie's going to direct.
Oh, that's awesome!
Which is great.
Wow.
That's wonderful.
Yeah, and they're going to go into
That's
production in March, just a little 10-minute short. And Rosie's got it crewed and everything, and she's going to direct it. And so that I said, right, start a production company up, kids. Keep it going for about 8 years. Set it for about 25 million. Then you do what you like, and then you look after your mum and dad.
Yeah, please.
They could sell it to Netflix.
Yeah, well, who knows? I don't know. Do they take 10 minutes Netflix? I'm not sure.
Lord knows.
They
buy so much content.
We're maybe trying to flog it around a few festivals. We'll see.
There
Haven't
you
made
go.
it yet. We'll see.
There you go. There you go. What are some of the challenges, guys, to doing the show?
I think
that's Kevin's question.
Okay, Kevin, you're up.
I actually live in Florida.
Okay.
But the thing is the shooting of the RV park is basically in the middle of a pasture.
Okay.
And the elements were the elements. I think
my God. Yeah.
While we were there during the 7 weeks, I think it was record heats for probably 5 or 6 of them. And it was just by 5 o'clock, the bugs that would carry you away. And it was, it was as far as just, in anything you shoot inside of anything, like, Phil and I were talking earlier about, a scene they shot in a car. If you shoot something in a trailer, of course, they can't have air conditioning on because it's big.
Right.
So every time you shoot something, if you're in a trailer, it's another, 20 degrees hotter.
Right.
So it was, from a standpoint of hydration, But the good thing was that Phil and I got a chance to. This was shot during Trump's early days, so we got to sit every day and have some discourse over our lovely president.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I'm quite certain that in the Savannah area, you wouldn't have had too much trouble finding some MAGA hats. So.
Oh no, and I think my character was kind of was a very Second Amendment Magna kind of guy. He was.
I can see that. Yeah, he wouldn't have had any trouble wearing it or putting the bumper sticker on.
No. I did try and get the wardrobe department to give him a "Make America Great" hat again, but he refused to wear it.
Yeah, I'd be thrown out of my home. I grew up in Detroit. They would not allow.
Oh my God! Yeah.
And my friends just said, "No, sorry, you traitor."
that ain't gonna fly. Yeah. No. You're talking about the mosquitoes, of course. I mean, those mosquitoes down there get FAA clearance. I mean, those things are big monsters.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, they knock drones down.
Yeah.
So, well, I mean, the fact that you guys have had so much success and so much fun with it. Now it's streaming on Britbox, and I think one of the fun things for those of us who love British comedy and what the BBC and ITV and others put together out there is we're now getting to see it almost in a real time. I mean, you guys finish the series, and then we're able to see it instead of waiting years and years and years to get to it. We can get it in, in some cases the same week, in some cases just a couple months after you've finished.
Yeah, that's progress.
Many thanks to Kim Fields, Philip Glenister, and, of course, Kevin Nash from the outrageous comedy, now streaming on Britbox. It's called Living the Dream. Check it out. Highly recommend. We'll be right back with Shane Allen. Shane, of course, is the head of comedy at the BBC. But first, this word from BMW, the ultimate driving machine. We're, of course, talking about the i3 Electric.
Life is about making decisions. At BMW i, we decided it was time to reinvent the car from the ground up, making sure we were open for truly innovative ideas. We decided that the car we wanted must be electric, and it should be made of extremely light and super strong carbon fiber. And finally, we decided to make it more intelligent and added our promise of incomparable driving pleasure. We made all these decisions to offer you a choice. The all-electric BMW i3.
Welcome back to Stream On. I'm Jim Williams. Now, our next guest is someone we know. He's been here before. His name is Shane Allen. His official title is the Controller of Comedy Commissioning of Television for the BBC, but we just like to call him the Comedy Boss. Shane, it's the golden age of comedy at the BBC, my man.
No, it's a good time, and I think things have changed from maybe 10 years ago, where a lot of the shows you were talking about, who can be in it, who's going to be the star, or what's the concept, and nowadays by backing people like Sean, who's written this show, or Phoebe Waller-Bridge, or Stefan, who writes Mum, it's those people who creating these kind of real and rooted worlds, and there's a lot more nuance, I think, to comedy. I think there's more of a spectrum of what we offer at the BBC. You do the mainstream family stuff on BBC One, like Hold the Sunset, all the way through to, BBC Two Inside Number 9, and these very stronger flavour pieces. And then BBC Three, we've had a lot of success with growing talent, like This Country won the BAFTA, or People Just Do Nothing won the BAFTA. So what's lucky and brilliant about the BBC is you get to do the full spectrum of tastes and range and the whole breadth, really. And we've been very lucky to back really good talent. And also, you're aware of the fact that if you get beyond 3 series these days, that's a big triumph. And
oh my
it's
God!
More and more rare.
Yeah. Most
yeah.
people are lucky to have one.
I know, exactly. And then the ones that you have, they have to come on air fully formed, because you're competing with every show that's ever been made, because everyone's their own scheduler. So we pilot a lot, and we make sure that any kind of kinks or anything that's not right with an idea gets all hammered out in the pilot. So by the time you come on air, you've got a fully formed show.
You know, Sean, what I'm excited about is that, I mean, I can watch the BBC and all of your BBC networks in real time as we sit right here from my home in Washington. Yeah. But the fact that the BBC programming is now available streaming on Britbox and other outlets, I mean, we're now getting to see things that used to take us years to get to. We're now getting to see it almost in real time.
Yeah, no, it's brilliant. And also the confidence that the kind of British things can travel without needing to be translated. Mm-hmm. You know, it used to be, even 10, 15 years ago, right, The Office does well in the UK, let's make the American version of it. Whereas you don't have, you still have it a little bit, but you don't have it as much. I think shows can travel and people can kind of relate to them without them having to be kind of mediated in any way.
I agree. I mean, the brilliance of comedy is comedy works in any language. And I don't think that well-written comedy like you guys have on the programming that you're, churning out there is, you don't need to make it to an American audience. You don't need to make it to an Australian audience, a Canadian audience, an Indian audience. It's funny. It's funny, and leave it alone. I mean, don't touch it. Let it roll.
I love it. And I think the other thing as well, we only ever really do runs of 6 because there tends to be a lot more single authorship or maybe a duo, and it's not that American system where you have volume. So I do think we have more shades and flavors and different. The range of what we do is quite broad, and it's because we'll do 6 eps, but we get to do more series across the board.
True, but I think one of the things that you guys have done, which has changed the dynamics, is though people used to do 24 to 26 episodes, they don't do that anymore. People have moved down, and they're taking kind of your idea and going, okay, let's do 12 or 13 good ones, rather than try to make 22 episodes, of which 10 might be good. The rest, God knows what they're like.
Yeah. No, we've got John Cleese and Ricky Gervais to thank for the 2 series and finished model of let's leave on a high, rather than how do we commercialize this for the longer term and all of that. I think we're much more sympathetic to the kind of artist's vision for something and not stretching an idea beyond its overstaying its welcome.
Well, we were talking about, the wonderful situation of bringing Cleese back to TV as you did in Hold the Sunset. And when I told people that there was only 13 episodes or 12 or 13 episodes of Fawlty Towers, they wouldn't believe me.
No, and also the other thing about Fawlty Towers is first series was 1975, second series was 1979. So it was a 4-year gap. Right. And he didn't rush it. Whereas I do think in the world we're in and now that you get a lot of kind of commercial pressure to create volume, to grow the brand, it has to return. And some of the good, the BBC kind of, the fact that we are not commercially driven in any way allows you just to kind of let artists kind of do the work on their own terms a lot more. And then it's enduring. And then the other thing that we found, we had this at Christmas. We on iPlayer released a lot of kind of catalog box sets,
right?
And they Outnumbered and Gavin and Stacey. These things were huge. They were massive demand. They did great numbers. So people are also seeing that good comedy is evergreen. It endures forever, and that's a real commitment from the BBC to kind of keep that tradition up, because every week on BBC Two, they play a show called Dad's Army. And Dad's Army this year is 50 years old, and it gets 1.5 million every Saturday night. This show that's 50 years old still delivers. So and the commitment that the BBC has is recognising that and sort of saying, right, we need to keep going. We need to do as much comedy as possible. So in an on-demand world, comedy is the kind of top of the tree for how shows can get massive consolidated audiences.
And as you say, I myself probably own 20 different BBC box sets. So I'm doing my best, Sean, to help you do my best to keep the network, the network funded.
Yeah, bless your heart.
But I think that.
What's your favorite? What's your all-time favorite comedy?
My all-time favorite, man, BBC comedy or British comedy. I'm gonna have to go with. There's two actually. One would be. I'm gonna go with Benny Hill. Because I just grew up with Benny Hill and Monty Python. I grew up with Benny Hill and Monty Python.
But Python's 50 years this year as well.
Right. As time goes by, I think that was brilliantly done. And also, Are You Being Served?
There you go. You've got all the classics.
Yeah, those are mine. But I'm learning and getting.
Good choice.
There's obviously The Office and others. You just keep banging them out, and I think that. But again, to your point, you don't have to change those to adapt them. It's like All in the Family, right? Was based on British comedy. At that point, I said to myself, I got to see this original British comedy because I wonder what it would have been like had that been what we've seen instead of the All in the Family, Archie Bunker style show.
Yeah, completely.
What's coming down the line? What do you think?
So
what can we look forward to?
We have got a night of comedy coming up that has. Do you know Alan Partridge?
Of course.
Alan Partridge is coming back to the BBC. We've got a double bill. We've got Martin Clunes doing a new sitcom on BBC One, which goes into Alan Partridge. And then it's the news, and then after that we've got Fleabag coming back, second series, the second coming, into another new comedy. So a lovely great heritage comedy like Partridge. He's back at the BBC. The BBC, the internal logic is the BBC in an age of Brexit has lost touch with the common man, and Alan Partridge is our savior. He's gonna help the BBC reconnect with the ordinary man.
Many thanks to Shane Allen, the head of comedy at BBC. By all means, check out all the outstanding programming they have that are airing in many different areas. Of course, Britbox being one of them here in the United States. We'll be back with more of Stream On right after this from BMW. We'll be talking about, of course, the i3, the ultimate electric driving machine.
Life is about making decisions. At BMW i, we decided it was time to reinvent the car from the ground up, making sure we were open for truly innovative ideas. We decided that the car we wanted must be electric, and it should be made of extremely light and super strong carbon fiber. And finally, we decided to make it more intelligent and added our promise of incomparable driving pleasure. We made all these decisions to offer you a choice. The all-electric BMW i3.
Welcome back, everybody, to Stream On. Now, if you're not one of the over 50,000 people who've taken the time to download the podcast and subscribe to it, well, first of all, shame on you. Second of all, we make it easy. It is free. You can find us in the iTunes store because we are very pleased to be part of the Apple Podcast family. Same goes if you're an Android user. You can find us in the Google Play store because we're part of the Google Podcast family. You can find us on Spreaker, Stitcher, Spotify, as well as TuneIn and iHeartRadio, along with, of course, YouTube. Now, if you can't seem to find us, and that's almost impossible to do, but if you can, pull out the old Google machine and type in Stream On with Jim Williams, hit the favorite button or subscribe button, and each week you'll get a brand new edition of the podcast sent directly to your tablet, to your phone, or hopefully to both. So please go out there and do that today. One other thing, okay? If you happen to have one of those wonderful assistant devices like Alexa or Google or any of the Apple products, which answer, of course, to Siri, all you have to do is say, hey, Siri or Alexa or Google, please play the latest edition of Stream On with Jim Williams, and they will do it for you, okay? So we've made it very simple to go out and get the podcast and subscribe to it. Please do that for us today, okay? All right. Special thanks to the cast of Living the Dream. Gotta tell you, it is a big hit on Britbox. It's hilarious. Highly recommend. Also to Shane Allen, the head of comedy at BBC. Plenty of Shane's work going on at the Britbox app as well. So by all means, check that out. Next week, we're going to have a lot of fun. We're going to talk to the gang at PBS about some outrageous stuff they've got coming through their passport program. I got to tell you, I've seen a sneak peek of what's coming, and folks, you're not going to want to miss it. So join us next week. We'll be talking with PBS about the passport program and some really cool stuff that they're going to be streaming this summer and into the fall. A lot of it coming from the wonderful Masterpiece and also Masterpiece Mystery Series group. So by all means, check in on that next week. So for the entire team here at Stream On, I'm Jim Williams saying thanks for joining us. We'll see you next time right here on Stream On.